Okay, thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. Good evening. Welcome to the CUNY SPS Office of Career Services Professional Development webinar. We will be covering virtual career fair preparation and networking strategies this evening. My name is Shannon Gallo. I'm the Manager of Career Services here at CUNY SPS. I look forward to speaking with all of you this evening. I'd also like to take a moment and thank Nikita Cassidy. She is the Data and Administrative Coordinator for our Career Services team at SPS. She will be assisting us this evening with tech. She'll be answering questions and participating in the chat. We also are offering a live stream of captions. So if you are interested in taking advantage of that, please do so. I'd like to thank our captioner for joining us as well. So the agenda for this evening it's a pretty hefty agenda. We have a lot of material that we'll cover. We have the introduction now. Then I will cover preparation, which is key for success at a virtual career fair or any career fair for that matter. I will take a couple of minutes and just give you kind of an overview and show you some screenshots as an example of what career eco looks like from the perspective of a student. I will discuss what we call the personal pitch. I will give you a very quick overview of how to perfect your pitch. I'll talk a little bit about LinkedIn, and then I'll close out the presentation with networking with awareness, and finally answer questions. We did a lot for 90 minutes for this evening's session. I don't necessarily anticipate that we will go the full time, but I hope that all of you will remain attentive and continue to join us as we move ahead. I also welcome you to send in your questions to the career services in the chat, and I will do my best to answer those once the remarks are concluded. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So preparation is key. Pretty much any career fair, career event, whether virtual or in person, one of the most important keys to success is preparation. And one of the most important parts of preparation is your resume. So I wanted to go over a couple of things related to making sure that your resume is in order for our virtual career fair coming up in a little less than a month, June 7th. A couple of things that we recommend everyone do in preparation for the fair when you're getting your resume ready to share with the employers in attendance. We are having another webinar on May 24th. That will be specifically focused on resumes. So I recommend that if you have not attended a resume webinar in the past, even if you're not able to make it for the virtual career fair, the resume webinar is still a crucial one of our most signature programs that we offer each and every semester. You also have availability to access sample resumes and documents through the resource library, which is within our CareerLink career management system. Third, another option for updating and having a resume reviewed is meet with a career advisor. Myself and Kelsey Richardson in our office, both of us do have availability to meet with students. You would log into the CareerLink system and make an appointment with one of us for a resume review. You also can submit your resume within CareerLink to be reviewed by myself or Kelsey or Nikita. So you have a lot of options to make sure that your resume is ready to go in tip-top shape ahead of the career fair. Another important aspect of your preparation is to make sure that once you've registered for the career fair, number one, that your candidate profile is complete. So this means that you are filling in all of the information that is being asked on your career fair profile. I will show you some screenshots in a couple of minutes, and I'll give you an idea of what those kinds of things are that you'll need to be completing within your profile. Another big part of your candidate profile and completing it is after you've updated and perfected that resume, including your resume in your candidate profile. It's typically when the employers register for our virtual career fair and they set up their employer profiles. Once they've done so, they are then able to view candidate profiles. And it's very possible that an employer would be interested in seeing your candidate profile and reviewing your resume even before the virtual fair. That way they have an opportunity of the types of candidates they might be able to meet when they attend. Another important part of your preparation is your pitch, figuring out how you will present yourself to the employers. I will again show you some screenshots of what the employer page looks like and what their meeting chat rooms look like. And that's really an important place for you to be able to really pitch yourself, really articulate to the employers what you offer, what you're interested in, and how you can meet their needs. Finally, the last step in your preparation for a virtual career fair, an in-person career event, any of those things, is make a plan for how you will follow up with organizations you meet at the event. So this might mean that the day after the fair on June 8th, you take a couple of minutes, you go through, you read up on the individuals you've met. If they have suggested you apply online for job openings, you go ahead and do so. You make sure that you find those individuals on LinkedIn if possible. If they provided an email address or other contact information during the fair, you can always plan to send them quick follow-up notes. And I can tell you from my experience working in staffing and recruiting and advising people and coaching people through job fair success for years, that the candidates who take the time to follow up find the most success at these events. You would be surprised how many people just attend the event and then that's it. They wait and they hope that an employer will reach out to them. It's much more effective to be proactive and follow up yourself with the employers you meet. That makes it that much easier for those employers to find the candidates who are serious job seekers. They're also going to be a lot more likely to reply to you rather than draft an email to you in the first place. So those are some of the most important things when you are preparing for a virtual job fair. Some other things to do, and as I said, I will show you a couple of sample screenshots of what the fair will look like. One of the important things that you can do after you have registered and completed your candidate profile on the site is review the event attendance list. So look at that employer directory, see which organizations are registered to attend, get familiar with them. Look them up online, read through their company profiles on the fair website. Find out who the recruiters may be that are attending. Look for hiring managers that work within your field or function. Check to see which kinds of jobs they are posting on the virtual career fair site. Look on the company website. Look at the profiles of leaders in the company on LinkedIn, find out what kinds of things they're talking about. That can really give you some good ideas about the organization and allow you to get familiar with the organizations, their job and internship opportunities, the people, the leaders, all of those things that are basically the information is available either on the virtual career fair site in their profile, on LinkedIn, or on their company website. And if you can take the time to really set yourself up by looking through and gaining that familiarity ahead of time, that will allow you to manage your time wisely during the live event. Many, many times, again, when I used to work in staffing and attend job fairs and meet with candidates, It was always striking to me when a candidate would walk up to us at the booth and have no idea what our organization did, what kinds of position openings we might have available, basically any knowledge of our organization. And I always felt that that was a big mistake, because that time that they have at that live event, whether it's in person or virtual, really would be better spent selling themselves, allowing me as a potential employer to get to know them and what they can offer to our organization. So that's why it's very important that you take the time to check the employer directory, get yourself familiar with these organizations, and make sure that you're using that valuable time to sell yourself, rather than asking them questions that you could easily find the answers to yourself ahead of time. Okay, so now I'm going to take a couple of minutes and just sort of show you a couple basic screenshots from what the Virtual Careers Fair site will look like. Our Career Center works with a vendor called Career Eco. So they set up the site and provide all of the inner workings and operational piece of the website. As you can see here on the example, when you register for the fair, you will have the opportunity to complete your candidate profile. So this is where you'll list the basic things like your degree, your graduation date, whether it's intended or already passed. You will upload your resume. They ask certain questions about your field, which area of expertise you have. There are a lot of choices and different things to select, but as I said before, it's very important that you take the time to complete and answer each and every one of these questions. That is how the employers who are planning to attend will be able to identify you and find candidates that meet their specific needs. This is a screenshot from a candidate profile that lists the employers who are in attendance. Now, if these particular employers don't seem of interest to you right now, no worries. That's definitely regular. We pretty much have new employers registering, I would say, every day or so. So if you don't see something that really jumps out at you today, you're likely to see something that does tomorrow or the next day. But this is just an example of what you would be able to see when you log onto the site after your profile is set. You can see the particular organization on the day of the virtual career fair, where it says no sessions today. It will provide you with information about the time that this organization will have a representative available in the meeting chat room. That's why it also says moderator offline. On the day of the virtual career fair, this will say moderator online if it's during the time when that particular employer has a representative live in the event. On this page, you can also click on the different employers to see information like this. This is a particular employer who is registered to attend the fair. Once you've clicked on this particular employer, this brings up their profile page. So this has information. This particular employer has indicated that they plan to be online from 11 to 2, so for the duration of the event. On the homepage, they've got a nice video posted about careers at their company. You can find out information there. You can see contact information if they've provided an email address. Their website is here. Their specific careers page is listed on here. All of these things make it super easy for you as a prospective candidate to find out about the organization. Another important part on the employer page, they definitely provide, they are asked to answer basically the same types of questions that you are as a candidate. So they indicate areas of expertise they're seeking: business analysis, marketing research, sales, business development. They're looking for people with any of these degree types. So pretty much all of the programs available at CUNY SPS. Different locations. This is a fairly vast large scale organization, so they do have opportunities pretty much around the country. There definitely are more than just what's listed here. This is just a simple screenshot to give you an idea. They also have a section where they'll list their job postings. So each and every employer who registers for the fair will have a similar profile page, the about section, additional info, job postings. They also, on occasion, might upload different files so that candidates are able to see other types of information as well. So this just kind of gives you an idea of really how easy it is for you as a registered candidate to prepare and to really research and look into the organizations who are attending. One of the other important things that I will show you to sort of give you a sense of what the actual live event will be like is this page. This looks very similar to what the meeting room or chat room will look like. So this is just sort of a sample from the CUNY SPS meeting room, which will be live during the event. So when you log into the fair, we ask that you pop in and say hello to us from the Career Center first. We can, sort of help you get comfortable, help you understand what the main chat rooms are like before you actually enter the organization rooms. But many of them will look like this. It will indicate the moderator, and it will likely say the recruiter's name here, and they will be present within the chat room. And you're able to type a message and say, hello, my name is Shannon Gallo. I'm excited to meet you today. I am impressed with what I've learned about your organization. I'd love to tell you about my qualifications. You can basically use these fields to type a message for that particular moderator or recruiter. The other thing about these main rooms is likely the employers will have, they might have multiple employer representatives, and there will also be multiple candidates within the main rooms. On occasion, employers are able to reach out directly to you as a candidate and arrange for you to meet with them one-on-one for more of a interview type of conversation. This may be via chat, basically instant message, or it could be via video or audio. So those are all possibilities. We do have some more information from the vendor that we are happy and we do plan to provide to all of the students and alumni who register to attend. So be on the lookout for that information. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and show you some of the main things that I thought were really important in advance of the event. Before I move into the pitch, I do want to take a quick step back and mention one thing. As I was showing on this page, and I mentioned that we do have more and more employers registering each and every day. It's important for you as a potential candidate and as someone who plans to attend the event, it's important for you to understand that even if a particular organization doesn't jump right out at you as having the right kind of opportunity, or if they don't necessarily have a job posted on their company profile that seems up your alley, it's still worthwhile to consider talking with that employer representative. You simply never know what may happen in the future. There may be openings at that particular organization that person is not in charge of recruiting for, but they may be interested in talking with you in order to refer you to a colleague in another area of the organization. It's also important to keep in mind that while an organization attending now doesn't necessarily jump out at you, some of the organizations that are smaller organizations, mid-sized companies, and so forth, they are really eager to talk with students and alumni, and they may not be posting their jobs on the same major websites that other larger employers are. So sometimes it's not quite as competitive for those types of opportunities. Basically, what I'm saying is keep an open mind when you are, making your plan to attend the event, because you just never know what can result from these connections. Okay, before I move into my remarks on the perfect pitch, I did want to remind everyone, I know we've had some new people join us. We are offering a live stream of captions for our attendees. I will be doing my best to answer questions that come in at the end of the webinar. So please feel free to send those in. I'll do my best to answer them as they come in. We're covering a lot of material this evening. So hopefully, I'm able to answer questions and really give everyone a nice overview of some of these important topics, which I think, not only is this useful for someone attending this virtual career fair, but it's something that could be worthwhile for attendance at any networking event, career event, whether it's in person or virtual. Okay, with that, I will go ahead and move forward. Okay, the pitch. So for anyone who has attended our webinars in the past, some of this information may be review for you, but I will say that even if it is, I think it's always useful to hear it and really think about it and prepare in advance of an event like this. Really, we call it the personal pitch. Sometimes it's known as the elevator pitch. The idea was years ago that if you were walking into your office building and you got on the elevator with your chair or CEO, that you would be able to pitch yourself to her by the time you arrived at the top floor, the C-suite of your office building. So that's sort of why this is called the elevator pitch. It typically answers the question in an interview or in a networking setting or a job fair. What do you do? It also is a great response to prepare for the question that typically comes up in any job search and interview setting. Tell me about yourself. It might be known as a 30-second pitch, your infomercial. It can also be used as that summary statement, the introductory summary on your LinkedIn profile or your profile summary on your resume. Finally, your pitch can even be modified and used in some ways on your cover letter or in an introductory letter that you send to a potential contact for your job search. So really this, your pitch is very, it can get a lot of utility in your job search and in professional settings. So what I'm going to attempt to do is simplify the pitch. It's something that I think makes a lot of people nervous when you really think about it and you try and articulate these types of things and really state them in a concise but effective way. So what I will try to do is simplify your pitch. And basically that means breaking it up into 4 parts. The first is tell the person what you're doing right now. The second is tell them what you were doing right before this. Part 3, tell them what you want to do next. And finally, part 4, tell them something memorable about yourself and call them to action. So that being said, I will go through and give an example of a pitch that I think would be effective for, all of those scenarios that I just talked about. I also believe that you can use a pitch like this somewhat modified while you participate in our virtual career fair and while you participate in the chat rooms. This is, you could even break up your instant messages into the different parts of your pitch. So it's certainly a very versatile part of your job search toolkit, no matter how you're planning to put it into action. So part 1, as I said, this is where you simply tell them what you're doing right now. So as an example, I'm working as an HR assistant at a mid-sized manufacturing company in Brooklyn, nearing completion of my BS degree in business from CUNY School of Professional Studies, right? Pretty simple. You're basically just telling the person what you're doing right now. Building upon that, And moving into part 2, tell them what you were doing right before this. So I had been working part-time for 3 years as a receptionist when my company moved me into human resources as an admin assistant. Doing that made me realize it was time to take the next step, so I pursued my bachelor's degree. I realized that it was time to take the next step and pursue my bachelor's degree if I wanted to truly build a career. So this was very effective because they continued from part 1 when they talked about what they were doing currently, but they also were able to add something that intrigued the listener. They talked about how they got a promotion into HR as an admin assistant from the receptionist position. And that was how they realized that building a career was going to require a little bit more work, and really taking that next step would probably mean pursuing a bachelor's degree. So moving ahead, part 3, tell them what you want to do next. And I might say that this is one of the most important parts of your pitch when you're talking to a prospective employer, when you're at a networking event, any sort of professional position, because this is where you really get to shine. You really get to show them that you have clarity for your career goals. Even if you don't, coming up with a, simple third part to your pitch can really help an employer understand who you are and what's making you tick. So part 3, my classes in strategy, HR management, and even psychology helped me realize my potential in HR. Being president and volunteer chair of the Management, Entrepreneurship, and Leadership Club has helped me develop a knack for team building and professional relationships. So I'm looking for a higher level role related to talent recruitment and employee relations. So not only did they tell the person what they're looking to do next, but they also continued to confidently speak about their coursework, their extracurricular activities, their leadership skills, their workplace competencies. So if you really think about developing these parts for your pitch, it's really, you're telling your career story. You're selling the person on what you can offer them, what you're looking for, and how you can be a strong employee. So moving into the final part of your pitch, tell them something memorable about yourself and call them to action. I concepted and crafted the first ever Mellow DEI initiative, and I've seen a lot of jobs listed related to DEI recruiting. Since you've been working in the field successfully for a while, what advice do you have for me to make myself marketable for a new job? So again, the person continued to talk themselves up. They gave some, specific examples of success that they've had related to the DEI field. And they've mentioned and been able to connect that to the person that they're talking to by sort of buttering them up a little bit and saying, since you've got experience doing this, I want advice. And notice that this person was deliberate in not saying, since you've been working in this field successfully for a while, I want you to help me get a job, or can I send you my resume for an open job at your company? Instead, they buttered the person up and talked with them about how they're successful in the field and asked for advice and ideas. And this is a great way to call a person to action in a deliberate way that doesn't put too much pressure on them. Because sometimes if you ask a person in your pitch if they will take your resume or help you get a job, and they're not really able to do that, it kind of ends the conversation there. But by asking a more passive, open-ended type of question, you're able to continue to build that relationship. In review, the simplified 4 parts of a pitch. The first one, tell them what you're doing right now. The second one, tell them what you were doing before this. The third one, tell them what you want to do next. And then the fourth, tell them something memorable about yourself and call them to action. We will, which I didn't share before, but we will pass along the slides. And I also have a worksheet about the personal pitch that I think can be useful. So that will also be shared with everyone following the webinar. We will also pass along the recording. So just in case there's a lot of information and you're kind of wondering how you're going to recall everything, we will share everything with you afterwards. So that's really the extent of how the personal pitch can be simplified. And it's something that, really can be useful in a lot of different settings. Certainly with a virtual career fair or an in-person career event. It also can be useful for any type of networking scenario. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a formal business networking scenario. I was just talking with one of our alums the other day, and she was actually looking to hire someone in her organization. And she told me a story about how a person approached her in the nail salon, and they started a conversation, and the person ended up kind of pitching her. And sure enough, she set up an interview with the person later. So you never know when your pitch might be useful, even if it's not in an obvious setting. It's a good idea to really think about this and figure out how you might pitch someone if you have the opportunity. Okay, just another reminder, please send your questions if you have any that come up, and I'll try to address them at the end. I'm going to go through and provide some basic pointers for using a pitch in virtual settings. And this is something, more so in the case of attending online trainings or attending virtual conferences or webinars in that sense, as opposed to a virtual job fair or an event like this. Typically, I suggest for a virtual setting, get there a few minutes early if possible. And if the organizers are ready to go, you might be able to join early and chat with them before the webinar starts. Get to know, who they are. Sometimes it can make a presenter feel comfortable if they, have an opportunity to say hello to a couple of the attendees before the webinar begins. Consider using a script. And this is something that's very useful in the virtual setting. And if I might add, you certainly, in preparation for a virtual career fair, especially because much of it will be through messaging and chat, you do have the ability to sort of create a script for yourself. So I would certainly suggest ahead of time that you come up with some word tracks and some sentences that you will likely be able to use when you're chatting with the prospective recruiters. When you're attending virtual settings and you speak up in those discussions, or you ask a question or add a comment, it's important to not only make sure that your screen name, the place on your little thumbnail that has your name, that is accurate, but also when you speak up, that you introduce yourself, include your name. If it's a business setting, maybe your job title or your organization's name, and make sure that each time you speak that you repeat your name. That is how you can make yourself memorable to the presenters and to other attendees as well. It's important to be a good listener. And this is also relevant for the virtual career fair, because when you are in a chat room and meeting room and you're talking with an employer representative and there are other candidates also participating in that chat room, they will likely be asking good questions or sharing things as well. So take some notes. If you are learning more about what are good things to talk with the recruiter about, or the types of things that you could ask or bring up in the discussion, be a good listener. You'll probably learn a little bit about yourself, just as you will the organizations and their career opportunities. Another pointer about virtual settings and pitching yourself and really branding yourself is use that LinkedIn profile photo consistently. Take the time to, if you have a nice professional looking LinkedIn profile photo, use it as your thumbnail on Zoom. Use it as your thumbnail on Teams. If you use Outlook in the workplace, use the same photo as your little thumbnail in your Outlook or your company directory. The more you can use that and have consistency across platforms, the better people will be able to remember you and recall how you've participated in sessions, what you've done outside of the live virtual event that you're attending then. Okay. Now I'll give you some pointers. Some of them are quite similar, but I will give you some pointers for pitching at an in-person event. This might be a conference, it might be an in-person networking event, or even an in-person job fair. It could be a student life or club event. Any of those things, really these pointers would be useful. Just as in the virtual setting, I definitely recommend getting there a couple of minutes early. Introduce yourself to the presenters. If there are any other attendees that have arrived early, make sure that you take time to introduce yourself to them. Find out, what commonalities may exist with the other people in the group. Just take a couple of minutes. It, really can make a big difference, especially if their fairly large groups are attending. That's a nice way to, really take advantage of that opportunity as a networking opportunity. Think ahead about how you might sort of give your pitch in an abbreviated way. The 4 parts that I talked about certainly work very well when you're having a one-on-one conversation, or if you're putting together a summary statement for LinkedIn or your resume. But sometimes you might have to come up with an abbreviated pitch so that you can just make a couple of memorable comments about yourself or about the topic that will be presented at that session. Just like in a virtual setting, make sure that you introduce yourself. If you comment, if you ask a question, repeat your name, repeat your title or your organization that you represent. And finally, be a good listener. Sometimes in these kinds of events, I think people tend to lose focus from time to time. And I think one of the good ways to make sure that you are attentive and paying attention and learning about yourself and other people is to try to take notes and really be a good listener and pay close attention to the things that are being discussed, the comments, and the questions that are being asked. Okay, here are just a couple of pointers for what I'll consider the more formalized networking events. So say there is a career networking event with a professional association, and you are planning to attend with a couple of your fellow student club members. A couple of pointers for that. And these are very similar to my suggestions for preparing for career fairs. Know who will be in attendance. So that means take a look. Many organizations for events like this will share an expected attendee list. At the very least, they will share a list of event sponsors or prominent speakers at the event. So take a look at that and find whatever information you can about who will be attending. Look them up on LinkedIn. Pay attention to their company websites. Get an idea of who the people are that you really want to talk with, and set a goal for yourself for the activity. I think when we go to networking events, especially more formalized ones, it can be very nerve-wracking and scary. But I think if you take a moment and think to yourself, I'm going to talk to 2 people that I've never met at this event. Fine. Simple as that. You could talk to those 2 people that you've never met in the first 10 minutes of the event, and then spend the rest of the time catching up with your peers or your colleagues. Or you could catch up with your peers and your colleagues, and then in the last half hour of the event, you could start talking to 2 people that you have not met before. The important thing is to set a reasonable goal for yourself so that you know you'll come out of the event having accomplished something. Next, as with many events, plan ahead. Practice how you'll pitch ahead of time based on the audience and the setting. If this is going to be a group of students from around SPS, maybe it's a scholarship reception that you're attending. Think about how you would network with and get to know people who are attending that kind of event versus how you would network with and get to know people attending a large scale professional association mixer. All of those things are important to think about ahead of time and really plan your pitch around who your audience will be and what the setting will be like. Another pointer to help you get over some of those nerves is to use the buddy system. If you know that there's at least one person planning to attend the event that you do know, maybe it's a classmate, maybe it's a friend or a family member attending the event, make sure that the 2 of you are there to support one another, but don't be afraid to branch out. Maybe you set that goal of meeting 2 new people and your friend that you're with sets the same goal. So you stand together and talk to one another for a couple of minutes until you're comfortable in the room and you get a chance to understand who people are. Then you separate and say, okay, I'll meet you back at the food table in a half hour. And that gives you an opportunity. It kind of gives you a safety net to know that there's another person there with you, but it also kind of forces you to step out of your comfort zone and really make the most of that opportunity. Finally, as I mentioned with other preparation, be a good listener. Ask questions and watch for nonverbal cues. And this is something that I think over the past couple of years where we've had we're starting to have more and more in-person events again, but for a long time, I think people kind of got out of practice and they stopped being as aware of nonverbal cues. If you're talking with a person and they seem to be looking away a lot, or they ask you to repeat yourself many times, maybe maybe they're struggling in that environment as well. If a person smiles a lot and asks you a lot of questions, I would take that to maybe mean they are eager to talk with you and meet a new person as well. So what I'm saying is, don't be afraid to listen. Ask your own questions, because if you ask questions of other people, they will likely ask questions to get to know you as well. Okay, so I'm going to move into, at this point, I'm going to talk just a tiny bit about LinkedIn. It's difficult for me when I'm presenting any sort of career-related program about networking, job search, career growth, any of those things. It's difficult for me to not talk about LinkedIn for a long time because it's one of the most crucial pieces of a successful job search. However, I will touch on it just slightly to give you some ideas and context about how LinkedIn, social media, can be used to support your networking efforts, whether it's in person or virtual. So, mobile apps. I suggest that, everyone has their phones, their smartphones. If you are, a LinkedIn user, which I think most people at the very minimum should have a LinkedIn profile set up at least, I suggest really utilizing mobile apps before, during, and after networking, conferences, seminars, job fairs, etc. As I had said before, using LinkedIn as a research tool is a very smart way to prepare for a career fair or networking event. And sometimes when you arrive at an event, especially a career fair, they will give you a recently updated attendance list. And that may indicate that there are some new employers who have recently registered. So you want to take a couple of minutes, maybe go on your LinkedIn app and just kind of look to see who, who are these new companies that are signed up? Who is this person that I'm going to be meeting with? I also suggest using the mobile app even during the event, especially during networking and conferences. Other people are likely to have their phones as well. And sometimes if you meet a new person, it's getting to be more and more appropriate not to sort of have your phone out and be on LinkedIn the entire time, but maybe if you've talked with a person for a reasonable amount of time, you could say, I would really like to keep in contact with you. Let's connect on LinkedIn. And then you can get your mobile phone, search for their profile, and send them a connection invitation live on the spot. It's also useful to, when you are using LinkedIn and preparing for these events, and also afterwards when you're following up, go on LinkedIn and look for groups. If you've met someone new at a job fair or a networking event, search their profile and see what groups they belong to. That might give you an idea of where other people in the industry or in the organization that they are in, where they're going. What types of groups and associations have they joined? It's also important to look at hashtags related to your field. If you connect with someone new and they typically on their LinkedIn profile tag certain organizations or associations, you may want to follow those particular organizations or associations as well. There is a little tip that I recently found out about on LinkedIn, actually a couple of months ago when I attended a conference. There is a way in your LinkedIn mobile app, if you click in the search bar in the very top of your LinkedIn, right next to where your profile photo is in the app, it will bring up a QR code that you can share with others at the event. And then they can bring up a QR code and share it with you. It's a super easy way to connect with multiple people you're meeting at an event. And it's kind of cool too. It just takes about 2 seconds to bring up that QR code. As I mentioned before, be on the lookout for groups or organizations, presenters, organizers. I always suggest that if you are attending a large scale event or job fairs, take a couple of minutes, make sure that you follow the organization, follow the presenter or the representative from that organization, tag, give kudos to presenters, comment about if they've posted on their LinkedIn feed about speaking at an event, you could make a comment on there and say, I really enjoyed your presentation. I thought what you said about AI and the growth of ChatGPT was really interesting and important. You can always add something to those posts, but you won't be able to do so unless you follow them and find out what they're sharing. Finally, if you have the opportunity to present at an event or attend an event as an honoree or an organizer or a presenter, don't forget to update your own profile. Just as you want to follow other people will want to follow you. And that's really the way that networking should work, in a circle. If you are updating your own profile about a particular event you're presenting at, that not only helps with your own marketing of yourself, but it also helps with the event and with your organization or with the association that is part of the event. I realize I'm going over a ton of information, so certainly send in questions and I will take some time to address those questions at the end. Okay, so moving into some general pointers about networking for our community. One of the most important things you can do One of the most important things you can do as an SPS student or graduate is connect with your CUNY SPS community. In the past couple of years, the student life at CUNY SPS has grown and grown and grown. I believe we have more than 20 official student clubs through CUNY SPS at the moment. So there is no reason why you can't get involved or find something for you. We have honoraries. In addition to the student clubs, we have the National Society for Leadership and Success, which is an active organization. And finally, this time of year, we're about a little more than 2 weeks out from commencement. So there are a number of programmatic celebrations, activities around graduation, end of semester club meetings, things like that. Take this opportunity to get involved and attend something. Many of these programs are online, so it's easier than you think to jump on and attend, even if you're not actively involved in leadership of a student club. I know that they love to have, more people attending their events to sort of see what they're about. And it's a really, really great way to connect with a community that already has something important in common with you. I also like to mention what I'll say beyond Blackboard. Your classmates are your potential colleagues. So use the opportunity to take those relationships beyond Blackboard. If you, tend to have discussions with certain people within your major or within your classes, find them on LinkedIn. Seek them out when you attend a student club event. A lot of our student clubs are specifically focused on certain majors at SPS. So, find out, does your major psychology? Is there a psychology club? Maybe if you're majoring in human relations, is there an HRL club event coming up? It's also important to take relationships with your instructors beyond Blackboard. Particularly at SPS, we have a great amount of instructors who are field and industry experts. They have experience or they currently work in their field of study. So it's also important to build rapport with your instructors. Find them on LinkedIn, reach out to them there, see if there are ways you can make connections with them beyond in the classroom. I also like to mention alumni events, of which most of the time at SPS, current students are invited to alumni events as well as alumni. Look out for the multi-campus event, which will be coming up in June. This is always a really, really wonderful activity that allows for not only career-related training, but also networking. So that's an important event and an important way to connect with the CUNY SPS community as well. Beyond CUNY SPS, you are also part of a very, very large and connected community that is City University of New York. So I encourage you to look at programs that are CUNY-wide. Recently, the central office has, started to really do some programming and create some engagement for CUNY alumni as a whole. So I certainly encourage all of you, even if you're still a current student, to look at some of that information about alumni meetups. Find out about industry partnerships. Our Office of Career Services, we work very closely with our career services colleagues around CUNY's other campuses. And we are always sharing events that are happening at other campuses that are open to CUNY SPS students. So take advantage of those opportunities as well. Beyond just CUNY and CUNY SPS, it's also important, as I've mentioned before, get involved with professional associations. Many community organizations or volunteer organizations, those are also great ways to network without networking. And I say that because if you volunteer or participate in a community organization, you likely are doing so to support your community or serve others in your community. And that's a really easy way to get to know people that you wouldn't otherwise get to know, but in a way that's not high pressure. It's very different to volunteer with a person or help plan a community activity than it is to attend a formalized networking event. So those are always opportunities to sort of network with awareness, but do so in a low stakes way. And this is also, as I had mentioned before, the alum who met a potential candidate for a job at the nail salon. You never know when you might have an opportunity to meet a new person and turn a situation into a networking success. So keep that in mind as you sort of move about your life and become more engaged in activities and things like that. Finally, I will share a little bit about, really enhancing connections that you make and building lasting relationships. As I said before, networking is very cyclical, and it's something where you want it to be a two-way street. There's a saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I like to add, and who knows you. And I think it's important that if you are working to get to know others and looking for ways to connect with others, they are likely looking for ways to get to know you and connect with you. So when you are trying to do that and enhance your connections and build those relationships, I suggest you think like an organization. Create a strategy for how you're going to communicate your goals. Take some time to think about what your goals are. Even if it's not something that you're 100% certain of, you can still take a couple of minutes and sort of visualize, okay, I'm not sure exactly what I want, but here are some things that I know I can do to get closer to figuring it out. Develop messaging. Figure out what kinds of messaging you want to send out to which kinds of people. If you meet someone at the virtual career fair next month and you follow up with them, a day or two after, and there's not really any activity from that point, wait a couple of weeks and send out another check-in. The worst that can happen is the person won't respond. And I think it's important to understand that it's all about building the lasting relationship more so than what can this person do for me today. Another way to enhance your connections and build relationships is to offer to help others. You certainly have knowledge of different types of things, whether it's your academic major, your career already, your experience that you have, other types of things. And a lot of times a good way to receive offers of help is to give offers of help. As I had said before, when I was talking about the pitch, it's important to, instead of asking for a job or asking a person to take your resume and send your resume for a job at their company, ask for advice and really show a person that you respect their career and their experiences and you value their advice. If you do ask for advice, heed it, give it a try, see how it works for you. And if you find it was successful and it was useful advice, share back with that person and thank them for sharing the advice. Let them know that it worked for you. They'll be a lot more likely to want to help you again in the future if you're paying it forward as well. So always express that appreciation and show empathy for others, especially if it's a time of crisis. This can really make a difference. As I said before, sometimes offering to help can be the most effective way to receive it yourself. Finally, always follow up and be direct. If you've talked with a person and maybe you've interviewed with a person or you met a person at a job fair and you send that follow-up and you say, whatever your call to action is, make sure that you're direct, make sure that you're confident, but also make sure that you're grateful and you continue to offer help to others as you move through. You'll likely find that offering help to others, as I said before, is the best way to have them offer to help you. Okay. In conclusion, before I move into answering questions, I do encourage you to ask questions, please send them into the chat at any point. I did want to include a link and a plug for our final career services program, webinar program of the semester. It's coming up 2 weeks from today, Wednesday, May 24th at 12:30. It's our refresher resume webinar. And this is something that I think is one of the most crucial things to attend at CUNY SPS, even if you're not necessarily planning to attend the virtual career fair on June 7th, it's still a great idea to attend the refresher resume webinar to really make sure that your resume is in good shape and that it's, you know, as powerful as it can be to get you those interviews. Last but not least, our virtual career fair, which I've been talking about extensively, is coming up Wednesday, June 7th. So it's another 2 weeks from the resume webinar. It is from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. that day, and you can register for that at any time. As I had said, different employers are signing up all the time, so keep a watch on the site to see which employers are planning to attend. Make sure that you complete your own profile on the site, and we're eager for that event and really to have that opportunity to talk with all of you and to provide a forum for you to connect with prospective employers. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and see what's come through in the chat. Okay, there are some questions about following up and ways to reach organizations after the virtual career fair. As I had said before, I think one of the most effective ways to do that is LinkedIn. Not only can you find people on LinkedIn from the organizations, but you can also find out about companies. You can find out about competitors to companies that attend the career fair. That's, I think, a good pointer at any point with a job search. If you are applying for or interviewing for positions in one company, it might be a good idea if you find that is really interesting and matches well with your skills and your interests. See who their primary major competitors are and reach out to those organizations as well. As I had said before, following up is one of the most important things that you can do after a job search or career event. There's really nothing wrong with following up. If the worst thing that can happen is the person doesn't respond. The best thing that can happen is they'll be happy to hear from you and they will respond, and you just never know if it will turn into a job interview or a job offer in the future. It's also a good idea to follow up with organizations because you never know what kinds of things might change on their end. And that way you'll be part of their network, and it gives you an opportunity to follow up with them regularly down the line to really build that relationship. Okay. All right, I'm seeing some questions. Okay, the virtual career fair. It is set up specifically for CUNY SPS students. The employers attending are expecting and looking to talk directly with CUNY SPS students. I won't say that we'll necessarily turn someone away, but the employers will, mostly be interested in talking with CUNY SPS students. So hopefully that answers the question. CUNY SPS, the Office of Career Services, we do serve all CUNY SPS students and alumni. If you attend a different CUNY campus, I would suggest that you reach out directly to the Career Services Center at that campus, and they certainly will be able to assist you. Our webinars, however, are open to anyone. So if you're interested in referring a friend or a colleague to those webinars, they are free and others are welcome to attend those. Are there any other questions about the virtual career fair? I want to make sure that I cover those specifically. Okay. In closing, I will share that while I've talked a lot this evening about the virtual career fair and other networking events and things like that, our Office of Career Services, we do provide assistance on all other types of things, job search related. We are happy to meet with students to help with interview preparation, job search strategy, all sorts of career related activities. So I hope that those CUNY SPS students who have not met with us or engaged much with our office, that you do reach out to us. It's never too late or too early to get started. I also hope that all of you will be able to join us on Wednesday, June 7th for the virtual career fair. We're really excited about it, and we think it's going to be a nice opportunity for certainly our students and alumni, but also for our employer partners to get to know you and understand what great talent our school offers. So I thank all of you for attending this evening. As I said earlier, we will share the recording, the slides, and some other documents to provide assistance for you. And we hope that you'll join us at the fair or at a future program. Thank you all.